Hello everyone, I'm Oleksandr Trofimekov and today I'm going to prepare Speculoos. Speculoos are cookies which are very well known in Europe thanks to their rich, spiced aftertaste and crispy texture. Speculoos are traditionally baked before St. Nicholas Day in the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg and around Christmas in Germany and Austria. Their flavor is so admired by Europeans that you can find them in almost any store. Speculoos flavor gained so much popularity that now it is sold even as a sweet paste. I know that many of you adore the Speculoos flavor. That's why I've created this special cheesecake with Speculoos, which became the favorite among those who've tried it. Let's now prepare those amazing cookies. To make the speculoos, we don't need any special ingredients. Everything can be found in a regular supermarket. So, to make the speculoos, we'll use the all-purpose flour, the brown sugar, the light brown one, like this. I'll also use the muscovado sugar. It is ground into powder for better incorporation and faster incorporation. Then softened butter, which is at room temperature now. The sea salt, the eggs, the cinnamon, the ground one, the milk and the baking powder. So I'll start by placing the softened butter into the mixing bowl of the stand mixer. So all the butter goes in. Then I'll add the muscovado sugar. It's a very dark kind of sugar with lots of molasses inside and a very unique flavor. It will provide additional crispiness and additional flavor to the Speculoos cookies. And the color of the baked cookies will be darker and will be more Christmassy, let's say. I like it with muscovado a lot, but if you don't have it, you can just use the brown sugar, the regular one, like this. The reason I use two types of sugar is that because I want the flavor from the muscovado, but I don't want it to be overpowering. Plus it's quite expensive, that's why I use only part of it. And the other part is brown sugar, which has rather large crystals. They will give crunch to the Speculoos cookies, and this sugar will also impart its flavor. So the brown sugar goes to the mixing bowl as well. And I will add the salt. Now using a paddle, I'll start mixing everything. I need to cream the butter to a very light and airy texture. So I'll start at low speed first, but then we'll increase the mixing speed to a maximum. After 3 or 4 minutes of whipping, the mixture is ready. I'll show you the texture of the properly creamed butter and sugar. It has to look like this. As you can see, it has changed its color to a very light one. And it is super soft and creamy. So this is perfect. And at the same time, it is not too warm. The room temperature here is about 20–22 degrees Celsius, and the temperature of the butter is approximately the same. So it is about 18–20 degrees. It's not melted. It is stable, but very soft at the same time. Good. So now I'll add the following ingredients. I will add the eggs and the milk. I'll do it slowly and gradually because these two ingredients are watery. Here we have fat only. And to ensure good emulsion and proper incorporation of ingredients, we need to do this slowly. And a very important thing is that both the eggs and the milk have to be at room temperature, not cold. Otherwise, the butter, which is present here, will solidify, it will crystallize, and no emulsion will happen. And then the texture of the dough will break. It won't be as good as we need it to be. It won't be as crunchy. It won't be as easy to work with. So this is why we need the emulsion. So I'm gonna mix the two first. And then I'll start pouring the eggs and the milk gradually into the cream butter. After the addition of the milk and the eggs, the texture won't change much. To be honest, it should not change. It should stay as creamy and light as before, like this. So all ingredients should be properly mixed, no signs of separation, no signs of butter pieces or any lumps. It should be creamy as it is now. And now I will add the last ingredients, the flour, the baking powder, and the cinnamon. So to add them, I will mix them together first. I'll add the cinnamon to the flour. It is good to use the high quality cinnamon in these type of cookies because cinnamon is what makes the speculoos flavor recognizable, and using high quality ground cinnamon is best, is recommended. Then the baking powder. And now I'll mix everything together with a whisk. This is extremely important to ensure the even distribution of baking powder. When all the dry ingredients are well mixed, I'll just put them inside the mixing bowl. To the cream butter, sugars, the eggs and the milk. All at once, like this. And then I will mix everything on low speed just until incorporated. There is no need to mix the dough for a long time to develop gluten. This is not required here. We just need to incorporate all the ingredients, mix everything together until the dough comes together, and that's it. The goal is to minimize the gluten development to preserve this delicate and crispy texture. So now I'll start mixing at low speed. It will take about 30 seconds and then everything will be combined. After 30 seconds of mixing, the dough is ready. I'll show you the texture. It has to look like this. It has to come together and then look very soft, smooth and pleasant to touch. So no dry pieces of flour should be present. It has to come together easily when you press it. It should not crumble, it should be soft. Now, what I'll do is I'll put the dough here on parchment paper. And then I will cover it with another sheet of parchment paper and we'll roll everything to 4-5 millimeters thickness. I need a large rectangle. As the size of the parchment paper, it would be 40 by 60 centimeters, but you can divide the dough into several parts. So if you don't have such large parchment paper sheets or large trays, I have, so I'll use them. And the thickness can be different too. I like it when it's a bit thicker, like 4-5 millimeters, but you can roll the dough up to 1.5-2 millimeters as you wish. So now I'll put everything together. No dusting needed, just 2 parchment paper sheets or 2 silicone sheets if you wish, and the rolling pin. We don't need any more gluten. No additional flour is added. What we have is enough. And now when the dough is rolled to an even thickness of 4-5 millimeters, what I'll do is I'll shape it into a perfect rectangle to minimize scraps. And this is the way to do it. So I'm gonna cover it with parchment paper again. Stick it to one side, flip it over. Then level those 2 parchment paper sheets so the edges match, and then I will do like this. I'll fold the edges. So this is one, and then I'll do the same here. And then after folding all the edges, I'll flip this over again. Make sure that all the sides are tucked in. And now I'll continue rolling to fill these gaps with the dough. Starting from the center, like this, and pushing the dough towards those edges which have gaps. So after rolling, this is what we have. I'll show you. It should look like this, uniform rectangle of the Speculoos dough. And by having such a rectangle, we're going to minimize scraps because the cookies will be either rectangular or square. This is the traditional shape, and that's why cutting rectangles or squares from a square or rectangular shape is much easier and saves you the dough and money. So at this point, the dough has to go to the fridge for 30 minutes to 1 hour to stabilize. It is required to do so to stabilize the butter, which melted a bit during mixing, and to let the gluten, which was developed during mixing, rest. And this will ensure crispy and delicate texture of the Speculoos cookies. Now, after 1 hour in the fridge, the Speculoos dough has stabilized. It looks like this. Now it turned matte. It is not shiny anymore, which means that the butter has set. And now I'll cut it into little rectangles. I'll be using the dough divider for this. So this is 3 centimeters wide. Let me check. Yes, it is 3 centimeters wide. So I'll just mark. I won't be cutting using this tool. I'll just mark. And after marking the 3 centimeter side, I'll mark the next, the wide side. It will be 7.5 centimeters. Like this. So I'll rotate the tray. And now after this, I'll use a regular knife to cut the cookies. I'm not using the dough divider because it's not very convenient to work with a very cold dough. It will stick between the roller blades, and then it will be a mess to remove this, and it's a waste of time. So I prefer use this as to mark the dough, and then I'll use just a regular knife to cut. So I'll trim the edges first. As you can see, very little trimmings appear. So the scraps are minimal, plus you can roll them out again and cut the cookies out of them again. Or you can just bake them and blend into powder if you wish, to use for decoration, to use for cheesecakes, and so on. Okay, after cutting, I'll put the speculoos back in the fridge for 5 to 10 minutes to set them well again, so I don't damage them while transferring to tray for baking. Once cold again, the speculoos are ready to be baked. I'll just do the following. I'll flip them over like this, remove the parchment paper, and then we'll separate them on a tray like this. I'll be baking the speculoos on a perforated silicone mat, but they bake perfectly fine on parchment as well if you don't have this type of silicone sheet. I just like the way this mat transfers the pattern on the cookie dough, and I like the way it makes the cookies stay in shape, so they don't spread, they stay the way I cut them. So this is why I'm using perforated mats, but you can use parchment or regular silicone sheets without any issue. Then, after being arranged on a tray, the cookies are ready to be baked. The baking temperature is 150 degrees Celsius, and the baking time is about 20-25 minutes, depending on the thickness of the cookies. Mine are 4 millimeters thick, and I'll bake them for around 20 minutes. I'll be baking them with the fan on, so they stay nice and crisp, and their color turn even everywhere. At home, I recommend baking with fan as well if you have it. If you don't have it, it is okay to bake in a conventional oven. Just understand that the baking time will be longer, and you might need to rotate the trays to ensure even baking. Now the speculoos are ready. They have absolutely outstanding flavor and aroma penetrating everywhere. Learn how to make these simple but delicious cookies to sweeten your tea or coffee time.